spring comes. The same routine begins again. Dig the beds, plant the seed, then spend the summer fighting off weeds and pests just to keep them alive. Harvest in autumn and clear it all in winter. Then do it again next year. Sounds stressful, doesn't it? You will agree when you are done watching this video. Because there used to be a way around this. You put the plants in the ground once, and then you just kept eating from it for years. Decades in some cases. And one of them was prized so highly that a Roman emperor reportedly had it shipped to him every year, like a tax owed in vegetables. We're going to dig a few of these up tonight, literally and otherwise. Let's start with a strange contradiction. Let's talk about a plant with a name fit for royalty. But that was eaten almost exclusively by the poor. It was called Good King Henry. Nobody is even sure which Henry it refers to. Some historians think it isn't royalty at all. They think it is possibly a nod to a German folk spirit known for haunting old farmhouses. Seems half mocking, half affectionate. Either way, the name stuck, and the plant ended up growing in the corner of nearly every poor household's garden in England for the better part of 700 years. And it earned that corner. Imagine one plant giving you 3 completely different meals across a single growing season. The leaves cooked down like spinach. The young shoots in spring tasted close to asparagus, and the flower buds could be sautéed in butter, like a vegetable you'd expect to pay for at a restaurant. Archaeological evidence puts Good King Henry in Neolithic settlements. By the 12th century, it became a fixture in monastery gardens across Europe. Tudor households grew it as a matter of course, and Scottish crofters relied on it after the Highland clearances left them with almost nothing. So why have most people never heard of it? When easier, more uniform varieties of spinach and beet became widely available, gardeners simply switched over, and good old King Henry stopped being the easiest option. It's still out there, surviving in a few wild patches near old monasteries, in field margins in Lincolnshire, and in the gardens of people who deliberately went looking for it. And Good King Henry wasn't the only plant people went out of their way for. Some were valued highly enough that an actual emperor was willing to make demands over them. This one is called Skirret. And around 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Tiberius reportedly insisted on a fresh shipment every single year, sent from a garrison on the Rhine in what's now Germany. I know you are thinking, why would an emperor go to great lengths for a root vegetable? Well, because it apparently tasted like nothing else available to him. It tasted somewhere between a sweet carrot and a parsnip, with a faint, almost peppery bite at the back of it. I am no food connoisseur, but that sounds like a delight. Almost as delightful as sea kale. You'd learn about that in a minute. So back to Skirret. The reputation of the Skirret outlived the empire, and centuries later, it had made its way into English kitchens, and Tudor cooks made sure they went creative with it. They used it in both sweet and savory dishes. Among the many dishes was the Skirret pie, a feature on the table, and it held its ground well into the 1700s. Then the potato turned up, and the competition was over before it really started. A potato is one solid lump you dig up and cook. Skirret grows in a tangle of thin, finger-like roots that have to be picked apart by hand before they're even ready for the pot. It wasn't a question of which tasted better. It was a question of which one a tired cook would rather deal with at the end of a long day. It never actually disappeared, though. A small community of heritage gardeners still grows it today, keeping a 2,000-year-old root vegetable alive, one clump at a time. It is safe to say that Skirret lost out because it demanded too much from the chef. The next plant survived for the opposite reason. The ground it grew on was too brutal for almost anything else to bother competing. Along the shingle beaches of southern England, there's a plant that grows where salt spray, strong winds, and poor soil would kill most garden crops outright. But no, it didn't just survive, it thrived on it. Talk about a thick skin. It is called Sea Kale. And at first glance, it doesn't look like a food crop at all. Thick, blue-green leaves, soft clouds of white flowers. It looks like something you'd plant for the view, not the plate. But nobody was harvesting it for the flowers. It was the young spring shoots that mattered, because of exactly when they showed up. Right at the point in the year when winter stores were nearly gone and the new season's crops were still weeks off. So long before anyone could rely on a supermarket shelf in February, that timing alone made Sea Kale valuable. The shoots were tender, mild, and people constantly compared them to asparagus, except Sea Kale beat asparagus to the table by weeks. Once gardeners caught on, they started forcing it. One of the most popular techniques involved a process that required covering the plants to exclude light and encourage the growth of pale, tender stems. And that's the part of this story worth sitting with for a second. A plant that had once been gathered from windswept beaches was now appearing in gardening manuals, estate records, and carefully managed kitchen gardens across Britain. It crossed every social line that usually kept food separate. But its ending came, just like the others, as railways expanded and markets filled up with produce from everywhere. So the one thing that made sea kale special stopped mattering. But not to worry, it's still exactly where it's always been, growing wild on the same beaches for anyone who still knows to look. I am sure you are wondering, oh, the good old days, but guess what? You can still find these plants. They are still growing somewhere, right now. Probably on a hedgerow in Lincolnshire or a shingle beach in southern England or even a fortress site on the Rhine. What actually happened is that potatoes, spinach, and a handful of standardized crops simply became the easier choice. Easier to grow at scale, easier to ship, easier to sell. These plants eventually lost relevance to convenience. And this raises a slightly uncomfortable question. If knowledge this useful could fade out this quietly just because something more convenient came along, what else have we already let go of without noticing?